Welcome back to the 715 podcast. Today we're joined by Morgan of the Acoustic Cafe. Morgan, why don't you go ahead, give the viewers, the listeners, a little bit of who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, I am the general manager at Acoustic Cafe in Eau Claire. I graduated from UW Eau Claire in 2015 with a degree in American Indian Studies. So I didn't have any sort of, hospitality training or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I happened to get a part-time job at Acoustic, and then about a year later, so I started working there in July of 2017, and then in October of 2018, the manager was leaving. So I was the lead supervisor at that time, so she kind of handed over the reins to me, and the rest is kind of history, I guess. It seems crazy that I've been doing this for almost 3 years.
Yeah, time
really flies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has the last kind of 9 months just flown for you guys down there with this kind of start of the pandemic, because I'm sure that just speeds it up even more.
Yeah, time is not not I was talking to one of my coworkers today about her ex-boyfriend and that whole drama there, and she's like, yeah, it's almost been a year, and I'm like, what? A year? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's time. It's it ebbs and flows. I mean, I think that when you're in your 20s, that's kind of how it goes anyway. But the pandemic really kind of puts that into overdrive, I think.
Yeah. So you said your study at UWEC was a little bit different than what you ended up getting into. What was kind of the first goal that you saw yourself, or career path that you saw yourself going into with that study that you had at UWEC?
Yeah. So most of my research and my school work that I did was focused in the area of combating violence against Indigenous women, because that actually is a really targeted population for domestic violence, and tribal laws and state laws and federal laws and restrictions, that sort of thing. It makes it really complicated to prosecute. So there's a lot of crimes that go unprosecuted. And so I thought I could maybe see myself doing something, with a tribe directly, or, some sort of domestic violence advocate role. And I still can see myself doing that. That would be kind of my dream gig, but it can be tough to kind of enter a community as a white person. And, you may have the best intentions, but there's something called nice white lady syndrome. And it's very, very easy to fall victim to that. And sometimes you really have to question if you're actually being helpful, or if you just are doing something that makes you feel better. So that was something I didn't really kind of start to pursue that career so much. And I would love to go to grad school too, maybe for social work, but I'm just really kind of got a good gig going at Acoustic. So I'm happy there right now.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely help people at Acoustic. Let me tell you, some of the stuff that you guys got running there helps everybody. Let me tell you that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But then kind of tying it back into your start at Acoustic, you said you were the supervisor there for a while, and then the general manager left. How did that transition go for you from the supervisor position to the general manager position?
Man, it was kind of a whirlwind. That first 6 months was honestly pretty rough, because like I said, I have no sort of hospitality training or anything like that. And I am definitely a nice, kind, helpful person, but I'm not the most diplomatic person. So sometimes when, something is going on where someone is being rude to my staff or rude to me, and I'm just I have a hard time kind of taking my own bias out of things sometimes. So that getting that cool level head is something I'm always working towards, but at first was really hard, because I'm I can't just say whatever I want, because if they ask for the manager, that's me now.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts about Acoustic Cafe, and I'm sure a lot of people, is your featured musical performances, and you have a lot of art on the walls. And I know that's been limited because of COVID. We had the opportunity to speak with Spencer Douglas, who's been at Acoustic a few times. And because he's one of our buddies, and we're all the same age. So I guess I wanted to hear more of the behind the scenes of your featured creative stuff.
Yeah. So not to disappoint, but unfortunately I don't do too much of that, but I can tell you, we have our kind of the night manager, Blaine, who does all the music booking. He's done it for, over 10 years. He's been there quite some time. Yeah, long before his kids were born, and he's got little itty bitties. And he does all the music booking. He's a well-oiled machine. He's been doing it so long, it's the back of his hand. So he does all the music bookings. And unfortunately, I don't get to see the performances much anymore because they're all at night and I don't work at night. But I do have a lot of really fond memories of when I would be working at night and there's like, a 10-person band involving, like an accordion and all kinds of like crazy drums and that sort of thing going on. So I do think that's such a cool thing. And it's such a bummer that we can't do it right now, but there's just no way to do it safely, unfortunately. But in terms of like the visual art that we do, that would be my coworker, Sarah. She also works at Tangled Up in Hue, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners are well acquainted with Sarah. She's a bartender at Clancy's too. So she's a fixture of like the downtown Eau Claire scene. And she does all the visual booking, but I get to look at it every day. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned a little bit how that community piece kind of ties into the whole acoustic, I keep messing it up, Acoustic Cafe. Jackson started it, I swear. But how it ties into the whole community piece of downtown Eau Claire. How does being in kind of that central spot of downtown both help business and kind of that community aspect of the acoustic?
Yeah, we've got a pretty sweet spot where we're at. We're right by the bus station. We're right on a corner. We're on like the end of Barstow that's off of a really well-traveled road, like the Lake Street Bridge and that sort of thing. So I think that just like our location makes a huge difference. And we've been around, Acoustic has been in business since 1994. And nothing has really changed. And I've only lived in Eau Claire since, well, I guess not only at this point, I've lived here since 2011. So it just, people have such a love and such like almost like a reverence for acoustic where it's like the same it's always been, we've got the foam on the ceiling, the art on the walls, that sort of thing. And it's just, the booths are the same. And this sounds kind of corny, but I think it's just the vibe that acoustic kind of cultivates. And I really hope that I'm continuing that kind of legacy of just like a place where anyone is welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah. I forgot to ask Gage before this, but I know he has a favorite hoagie. And I was wondering if you had a favorite as well.
Man, I eat them almost every day, so I do try to mix it up a lot. But I would say my all-time favorite hoagie is probably going to be the tuna hoagie with jalapenos added, but otherwise made totally how we make it.
Man, there's just so much good stuff. I'm just thinking about everything that I've ordered from the Acoustic Cafe that just hits the spot every time. Like you said, just gives off that right vibe of downtown Eau Claire, just kind of that home style type of, just hits home every time. What would you say is like the most, I guess, ordered thing that everybody just comes in and it's like, yeah, they know that they need to try the acoustic, they need to have this from here?
I would say in terms of like our food, it would be the turkey hoagie would be our number one seller, which I do love a turkey hoagie. I used to kind of sleep on them because I'm like, turkey's boring, but it's also like always there for you, so turkey's a solid option. And then in terms of drinks, I would say the turtle mocha is kind of like our signature drink that we're really known for. A little bit on the sweet side for me. I'm more of a dirty chai, like iced latte type of person, but the turtle mocha, and we get to like put whipped cream on it and make it all pretty. So that's definitely a quintessentially acoustic thing, I think.
I don't know where I saw this interview, but I saw you had an interview before with a different publication, and you were talking about your locally sourced ingredients. So I would love to hear more about that whole experience of finding people to work with in the community and bringing their food to light at Acoustic Cafe.
Yeah, absolutely. So, local, it's not quite local to Eau Claire, but it's definitely local to kind of our area. So we get our pita bread out of the Twin Cities, Holy Land. It's like a bakery catering kind of, I've never been there personally, but it's apparently a pretty big operation. So that's where we get our pita bread. I know that our soups, we don't make them in-house, but they're sourced locally. I believe they might be made in the cities or even in Wisconsin. I'm not exactly sure. But our bakery that we make it right in-house. So, you can't get much more local than that when we're making it right in the kitchen. And I try to think of what else we might have that would be local. I would love to do that, but unfortunately there's not really, like local deli meats that I could get.
Right.
I've had a couple Amish people try to sell us eggs before, but that never worked out, unfortunately.
That's very cool. So you guys do bake most of your bread in the back?
Yeah, yep. So other than the pita bread and our gluten frees, we bake all of the cracked honey wheat bread that we make fresh every day. And then we do all of our cookies, our scones, our muffins, cinnamon rolls, and the quiche is homemade. Other than the crust, we buy the crust, but otherwise everything else is homemade.
Wow. So even though you're in you're in a manager position, do you have any experience or have you learned anything about cooking from being in the back?
Yeah, well, actually, when I started Acoustic, my position was weekend baker. So that's actually how I started out with baking. So I've got a wealth of knowledge, which comes in handy because when stuff goes like sideways, like, okay, if need be, I can hop in the back and crank out 3 dozen bread really quick.
I never knew that it was made back there. I never knew that. Wow. So then kind of going back into the train of the last 9 months and the impact that the pandemic has had on Acoustic Cafe, what kind of readjustments have you guys had to make? Obviously, whether it's numbers or carry out items that you guys have to change on the menu. How was that transition into kind of going into the virtual world and having to kind of minimize contact with the locals here?
Yeah. So I have and continue to take COVID really seriously. And I'm really glad that I'm in a position where I can actually make sure that the cafe is doing as much as we can there. Mm-hmm. So we enforce a mask policy. For a while we couldn't be open for dining.
Right.
When Governor Evers issued that edict in the middle of the day, we actually had to kick people out at like 5 p.m. It was kind of awkward, but we were only doing curbside pickup. So we're still offering curbside pickup, which not everybody knows we do. And then we're doing a lot of carry out, like a lot more carry out. We've taken out a bunch of our tables. So we're still running at about 25% capacity. And we've updated our website. So our website's a little bit more in the modern age. It was pretty late 90s before. We are working on getting an online ordering situation set up. But I mean, personally, I would rather not see us do delivery just because, I mean, you've had our hoagies. They don't really travel super great.
Right.
They're like meant to be enjoyed right then and there.
Yeah.
So I get calls all the time from, your Eat Streets, your DoorDashes, and I'm just like, no, thank you. So, and I would love to be able to share the food with more people, but I mean, we do offer carry out and curbside pickup. So if people really aren't wanting to come in the store, we can totally accommodate that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it can be tough for sure with the masks. I mean, we have a pretty strict policy of kind of correcting everyone if they're wearing a mask improperly, like showing their nose, not wearing it at all, moving it to speak. So that's the hard part because it's really hard to do that and not make someone feel bad or like sound rude. And that's like a struggle for me, is just like making sure I'm not, like making them feel bad, but like, please pull up your mask. So yeah, just being really diligent, I guess, about mask usage is probably the biggest thing. And cleaning, of course, we're cleaning way more often.
So what are your goals for Acoustic Cafe in the future as things kind of open back up and life is hopefully back to normal a little bit more?
I would love to see us be back to like a packed house. I mean, within the year, I think it's possible that we could restart our music again, probably in the fall or winter, if at all, in the year 2021. So I would love to get music back in the store because it is just like, it's really fun and it really brings people in, and it's just fun to see. Everybody, there'll be kids like dancing in the aisles and that sort of thing, and that's really cute. Yeah. But I really want to stress that like I'm not going to do that or like facilitate that until it's safe. Like I really just want to make sure that like I would love to see my staff vaccinated. I really want to get vaccinated, hopefully soon. So I think once we reach herd immunity and once we're in a kind of a better spot in terms of vaccinations and that sort of thing, I think we'll be able to open it back up. Right. I mean, I had to reschedule my wedding last year, so I'm really like, yeah, if I have to reschedule my wedding, we can wait. So that's kind of my philosophy. It's like, everything can wait. It's still going to happen. So
yeah, it'll happen when it happens, whether it's 3 months from now, great. If it's 6 months from now, great. Just when it happens, it'll happen. So, Okay, going into kind of some interesting stories. Jackson and I, we've had a couple different people on from the business world. What have been some crazy interactions that you've had as general manager down at the Acoustic that it's just like, you got to share this like one story, or you have that, because it seems like everybody has that one story in like the restaurant business where they got that customer. Do you have one of those?
Gosh, I'm trying to not get myself in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, and if you have to leave it out, that's perfectly fine. But
gosh, okay, there's been so many. Something appropriate for our most ears. It's hard because there's a lot of ones that it's just like, I'm gonna tell my friends and family about this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell the general public. Oh, okay. I guess this is kind of an interesting one. So we are in like a mixed use building. So we've got, Tangled right next door. There's apartments upstairs. And there's a parking garage underneath, an underground parking garage where I get to park my car. It's a really sweet manager perk. It's like climate controlled. It's awesome. And then there was one time the landlord was street sweeping down there to like clean it. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, they didn't think to keep the garage door open to like let the exhaust out. So I went to leave one day at like 4-ish or whatever. And I was down there and there was a lot of like beeping. And I was like, that beeping like isn't something I usually hear. And it seemed like dusty down there. And I'm like, I don't think that's smoke, but like this seems off. So I like pulled out, I think I called the non-emergency police, and I'm like, no, you need to call like the 911 right now. Like that's probably like carbon monoxide. And I was like, oh, dope. Okay. So I call 911 and they connect me to the fire department. And as it turned out, the street sweeper had like tripped the carbon monoxide detector. And we had to evacuate the whole store in like 80-degree weather. We still had hoagies like being like on the board, being made like in the microwave. This one customer in particular who doesn't always like fully understand like, what's going on. He's like, can I get my hoagie? And I'm like, and we were outside the building, like caution tape being put up by the fire department. No one's going in or out. He's like, can I get my hoagie? And I'm like, not right now, dude. He's like, can I go get it? And I'm like, no. We can't. So yeah, we were outside for like an hour, I think, just waiting for that to be all cleared up. So that was one where it's just like only at Acoustic.
Yeah.
There's been some interesting stuff for sure.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, sometimes that downtown location is a blessing and a curse, because sometimes it could be hard being down there and being kind of in the central of everything. You get some people wandering in there that might not be so great for the business. We sure do. Understand.
And it's like foot traffic is great. We love it. But there's also some people that kind of come traipsing through and you're like, I don't know about that. So
do you have any like people that travel long distances to come into the Acoustic? Like they've seen it from states away and they made the trip in just to try the turkey hoagie or something like that?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've had anyone who... Actually, no, I had this guy. He lived in, I think, Quebec. And he had like a pretty strong French accent. And he was like, yeah, I love this place. I come here whenever I'm in town. And
sweet.
I haven't seen him since. I only saw him the one time. Elaine, I think his name was. I don't know why I remember that. I've got a really good memory for that.
Yeah,
stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, he from Quebec. And every time he's in Eau Claire for business or whatever, he comes to Acoustic.
Wow.
That's awesome. Is there anything else you just want to kind of leave out on the front? Otherwise, we have these cards that we play with people sometimes. They're like question cards.
Fun. That's fun.
Should we roll those out?
Yeah, definitely. I guess just real quick, I just want to really thank the community for supporting us, especially through COVID, and for being patient with us and knowing it's going to take extra time, knowing that there might not be tables available, unfortunately, when they come in. So just really, I want, and my staff too, my coworkers, we couldn't do it without them. I mean, there'd be no Acoustic without my coworkers. So I just really, really want to give a shout out to them and my owners too. I mean, I know a lot of people lost out on income. They never cut my salary. It was never even on the table, never even mentioned. And there were weeks where I was only working 25 of my 45 hours I'm salaried for. So really just big love to Eau Claire and, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's what's cool about some of the local businesses, or especially around Eau Claire, is this thing's a global pandemic and it's affecting the globe. everybody's in this thing together. The least we can do is just, wrap our arms 6 feet apart from one another, and go through it together. So I think that's a great thing to say. I'm going to grab the cards.
Go for it.
Okay.
Would you rather? And some of these are meant for, the boys when they're over and we're having a good night. So we'll have to kind of have to look through some of these things. Okay, here's like an endurance question. Okay, would you rather blow up 100 balloons or lick closed 500 envelopes?
Oh my God.
I mean, that's like how far can you go? I mean, your lungs got to feel 100 balloons, but then your tongue has got to feel 500 envelopes.
Having tried to address over 200 save the dates, I'm gonna say and I'm gonna say the balloons, because that we gave up after like 5 and we just want a Q-tip to do it. So I'm gonna say balloons.
So did you have the save the dates for your wedding that you had to cancel? Yep. Oh no.
Yep, but then we did change the dates, so we got our change the dates out now. So September 18th, we're hoping.
Yes, let's hope. Let's hope for that.
I think I'd go with the balloons as well.
500 envelopes is...
This is kind of a goofy one.
Ask it.
There you go. All right. Would you rather wear adult diapers for the rest of your life or never wear underwear again?
Oh my gosh.
I would say I like to be cautious, so I'm gonna say adult diapers, because you never know. Things happen.
Yeah.
As we age, especially,
Play it safe, for sure.
I mean, I'm a khakis guy through and through, so I think I could get away with the adult diapers.
Okay, I got a couple different food ones now since we are the Acoustic Cafe here.
Oh, there you go.
But they are doing with pizza, which I don't think is on the menu down there because you're not a pizza shop, which makes sense. But deep dish pizza or thin crust pizza?
Thin crust.
Thin crust. Wow.
I completely agree.
Wow, I disagree. I'm going deep dish all day. Yeah, I like the pizza where you have like 2.5, maybe 3 slices, and it's just way too much because that's how thick the dough is.
I'd rather go to Sammy's and eat an entire pizza by myself.
That pizza is really good. The crunch to it.
I went on a trip to Chicago with my dad and my sister for like a weekend because the flights are like, at the time they were super cheap.
Yeah.
And we went to this place where you had to order your deep dish pizza and wait almost an hour for it to cook.
Wow.
And I thought it was terrible because as a way of texture, it was just, 2 inches of cheese and sauce. And I
get that.
I wasn't a big fan.
I get that.
Yep.
Okay, I got another one here. Ketchup or ranch dressing on everything you eat?
On everything?
It says everything you eat. Yeah. I mean, I think, personally, I would say ranch is probably the better dipper. But you can put ketchup on everything, almost. Or you could.
I'm going to say ketchup. I'm going to say ketchup. Mm-hmm.
I think it would go along with more stuff.
Yeah.
Than ranch.
Are there are there any interesting like house sauces that you guys have down there?
Oh yes, we have our special sauce, which is a secret blend of spices, and I shouldn't probably tell you the other 2 ingredients. I only know the 2 other ingredients. It is an oil of some kind and I don't want to say juice of some kind because that sounds really suspicious. I mean, it's banana pepper juice and olive oil, and then like the spices, I don't even know what's in it. I just mix it up. My boss brings me like a little packet, and I pour it in and mix it all up, and it's so good.
Secret sauce.
I found another food-related would you rather. It's would you rather eat peanut butter and jelly or grilled cheese sandwiches every day? I'm assuming for lunch.
Yeah, that's a tough one too.
I'm gonna say grilled cheese. I've got a soft spot for grilled cheese.
Yeah, they are good. When you get good grilled cheese, there's nothing like that.
That's true. I mean, I think there's a limit on how good a peanut butter and jelly sandwich can be.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I found one.
Yeah.
Little interesting, kind of personal. You could get into a story even if you wanted to. Have you ever been bitten or attacked by an animal?
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
I've been bitten by 3 dogs that had no business biting me.
Oh
They were
my.
dogs I knew, dogs I grew up with, like, and I was blamed for every single one. Like, or not believed. The first one, I was 5, and it was my neighbor's dog, Missy, who I know is roasting in dog hell now, and I'm not ashamed to say it. But she bit me. No one believed me. They're like, oh, it was a bee sting. Like, Missy wouldn't bite you. She did. Second one was my uncle's dog, and it was my fault for putting my face too close to her face, apparently. And then the third was my friend's dog that just went berserker. In his defense, he's a rescue, and I think sometimes rescue dogs just have those people that they're like, I know about you. So Copper's not a big fan of me, but I'm working on forgiving Copper. The other two,
Dog hell, burning up. Okay, I'm going to change this question a little bit to kind of weave in the cafe here. It's the scariest sound, or what is the scariest sound that you could hear in the middle of the night? What's the scariest sound that you could hear in the middle of Acoustic Cafe?
oh man, there's so many good ones. There are a lot of bad sounds. I've also got like creepy bat hearing, so I hear pretty much, it's a joke with my coworkers. I'm like, I hear everything, and I do. I would say when the espresso machine makes that one sound, that means it's not going to work. It's kind of like a knocking, clanging hiss situation, and it's bad news. Yeah, that would be the one.
Especially if it's like 8 a.m. in the morning and you know you're going to have people coming in wanting their coffee or espressos. Yep. Yeah, that's awful. That is awful. All right, Morgan, thank you for joining us today. It was awesome talking to you and going through kind of some of these pod deck cards. Once again, we haven't opened those up for a while, but once again, thanks for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you on and talk a little bit about the Acoustic Cafe today.
Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful to be here.